Well, what a coincidence. The road less traveled, the secret turning point of the Great War. So this is regarding World War I. There was this brief moment in August of 1916 when Germany, who we were fighting, with the Allies, had reached out to the USA and said they wanted to negotiate. They were even willing to give up, I think it was Belgium. And so that was like unheard of. That was the turning point. The turning point did not lead to success, though. The reason being is because man did not take this miracle in front of them and stop and say, God, please lead us. This is unheard of, because it was unheard of for that kind of thing to happen. Because everybody, war, it's all ego. Everybody's, we're going to be victorious. We're going to, it's the same story God's been dealing with all along since the beginning. So that's what they should have done. If they would have looked to God and said, God, guide us, we're not sure, this is wonderful, but how do we proceed from here? Then God would have said, pick up this gift I'm giving you, run with it, start making whatever arrangements with the Allies and others need to be made, move quick. Instead, what did self-will do? Self-will led to hesitation, which then led to people thinking of their own interests, which then led to mistrust and miscommunication. What do you know? Because that's what self-will does often. While the world says, I did this, I created my millions, I created everything, all this material wealth, I'm so, grand in myself. Okay? Yeah, but you're not so great that you'll go down the road less traveled without God. Because the road less traveled, that's God's road. It belongs to him. Nobody gets to go down it unless they surrender to him. Because nobody wants to go down. Not that you do want to go down it. It's just your self-will will not get you to go down it. So what ended up happening was all this missteps, and then was it Truman or Wilson? I forget. The president gave a speech in front of the House and Senate, and the speech was peace over victory. Well, that confused the Allies, it confused the enemies. Next thing you know, January 1917, bombs are flying, war's back on, and it didn't end until 1918 with millions more killed and already being a setup for the World War II to come. Yet they had this brief 5-month period, which it should. That's what I think they should have ran with it. But so that's what the book's about. It's about there were statesmen that wanted, let's move on this, and then there were others that hesitated. So see, to avoid all, that's why you have to, this is why God is necessary. This is why the recovering alcoholic knows this. Like, we don't say I'm an alcoholic because we identify as defeat. In the beginning, it's that we're defeatists, but it's really because that's what we come to find out while we're on the road less traveled, that empowers us, not because we did it, but because God doesn't need our help. He just needs us to be defeated, realize, look, you're not making it without me. You can keep trying. You can have all your riches, all your wonderful this, all your wonderful, but you got nothing without me at the end of the day. And he's right. You don't even have your life without him. So that's that. The alcoholic learns through that surrendering every day, because we do it. Because it's always let's get to the next day. So I'm going to surrender again. God kept me sober yesterday, so we're going to do it again the next day. And as time goes on, and all you're doing is showing up. That's it. And God strips the ego and identity easily away from us because we're so defeated in the beginning. And then he does all of his power in here in the heart, chipping away at the stone heart. And he does all of the chipping away at the stupid mind. And then while we're just showing up, because we just have to stay out of his way, He doesn't need our help. He just needs us to surrender and let him do his work. And that's literally what he does. That is what he does. We don't know how he does it, but he does. And then when he gives you that unveiling, see what I've done? You're like, oh, I don't know who this person is. I've never lived with this person. It's so true. It's a total miracle. So we don't forget it. We don't take credit for it because we had nothing to do with it. But what we learn is because by surrendering, God did all this stuff we never could do. We're like, well, maybe we need to surrender more to him. So that's what we do. So then he keeps us on the road less traveled. This is what this world doesn't understand. Even though I had said in my last video, the road less traveled this term is popular in Alcoholics Anonymous. You'll see it everywhere. And I think is it in one of the, I can't remember. But it is said a lot because it is a road that your own will not take you down. It won't. Your own will cannot fix you. It cannot repair. It cannot replace your stone of heart. It cannot repair the mind. Even if you think you're of sound mind, it can't. You need God to really show you what he can do. You don't have to be an alcoholic for that. Everybody, I mean, the world would change if people did that. Surrendered to God. It's just like in the Israelites. This goes back to the very beginning in Exodus, okay? They're getting ready to head off to the promised land. The Israelites, Moses, and, God over them. And Moses is like, God, I know a shortcut to the promised land. We can bypass all this land you want to cover. We can be there by morning if we go my way. And God's like, oh, no. We're going to go all the way around we're going to go all the way around the country. And then we're going to come up the back end 40 years later. Why was he doing that? Well, because the Israelites really had no faith. Their faith was so minimal, okay? They were toddlers in their faith. They were toddlers in their spiritual maturity. There was no spiritual maturity. They were toddlers. So would you give toddlers a promised land? No, they won't respect it. They'll take it for granted. They'll pillage it likely, and it'll end up in enemies' hands. So what's the point of that? See, this is like God knows what he's doing. He always does. So he's like, we're going to have to spend some time out here in the promised land, some 40 years. So that we can have some growth and some maturity and have the people trusting in me more and having their faith increased. And along the way, there's going to be some losers that give up because they can't handle the road less traveled. So they say, I'm going to go back to slavery. I want to be there. At least I get, a hot meal and a cot. So God's like, bye. I only have warriors for the road less traveled because the warriors surrender to me. So then by the time we get to the edge, after we go through this whole road less traveled journey, you'll get to the promised land and they will have greater faith. They will obey. They'll be more likely to obey God. They will respect the land. They will treasure the land because they will have grown in faith, and they won't take it for granted. That's the way God works. The turning point is your will. And if you only go by your will, you're gonna go down here. The only way, that's this path, this road only belongs to God. No man will even attempt to travel on this road. They may think, but no, they don't. They don't, because no man ever wants to look in here. That road requires here. And continuing to do that, the alcoholic knows this very well. And all of it isn't to hurt. It's to help, because through God, you become powerful. This world would likely run with that then and say, I'm going to go get riches and all this. And no, God, if you're really still staying with him, okay, and usually the alcoholic is, because we depend on surrendering to him every day to stay sober, then he's going to continue to take you on this journey that's always on the road less traveled. Because there's something great at the end of it, just like the promised land was there for the Israelites. But in order to get the greatest that God has to give, you have to surrender and go down his road to get to the true treasures.